Hi, welcome back to the Rusty Lathe project. So, having removed the tail stock from the lathe itself, it's now time to clean up this tail stock as best I can for the project that I'm actually wanting to do. As I say, I'm not going into great depth with it, it's just a bit of a general clean up really, and try and get rid of some of the rust. As we can see, this is rusted here. This is the gib strip. As we can see, this forms a shape like that, and this goes into one of these sides. Which one is it? That one there. That fastens into there on two little locating pins. I'm sure you can see the locating pin there. There are two little dimples in this plate that go onto the locating pin, and the lathe bed goes in this gap then. And these screws that we can see here, there are three of them as we've spoken about before. Two of them tension this gib strip up against the lathe to give it its rigidity and accuracy of movement, and then this third one here in the middle is rather larger, and that exerts a clamping force again on this gib strip against the lathe bed itself, such that when you've slid this into the position you want it accurately moved, because these screws are tensioned up correctly such that there's no wobbling of this thing. So they get tensioned up, and then if you want it to slide to a position and lock it in that position, you would use this central one here. That's how it works. As we can see, it's greased up and oiled up and somewhat rusted up at the moment. So again, using the same rust dissolver that I've used previously, I'm going to have a go at cleaning this up. I'll use some paraffin or degreasing agents such as automotive brake cleaner, WD-40, that kind of thing, to clean off most of the oils and the rubbish to start with. What I'm also going to do, we spoke previously about putting down inside there a taper reamer, so I'll put a taper reamer down inside there, turn it round, and that will hopefully get rid of any rubbish and rust that may have built up in there. But I'll use some of the rust dissolver first on all of these components. I'll take that off there, and maybe later when I get the lathe running, if I get the lathe running, put that in the lathe chuck and turn this broken piece of plastic such that it more resembles that rather than a broken piece of plastic. So I'll just turn away the remaining good piece to resemble a straight and blunt edge rather than a tapered edge that we can possibly see there at the moment. That will make it look as if it's not actually broken then. I'm going to remove this, and again, because of its condition, I'll take this down to the workshop and use the shot blaster again just to clean that bit up round there. And then when it's oiled up, hopefully it won't rust again. The quill that's in here, I'm going to take the quill out. I do that by just unwinding it from here. It's reached the end of its travel now, and so it's come off the nut arrangement at the back end there, the threaded section, so it's not going anywhere. If I wanted to put it back in, I would have to put some force that way on this shaft just to get it going onto the thread again, and away it goes. This doesn't spin round because it's on a locating, I'll pull that out of there, you can probably see that there, it's on a locating keyway, and this is the threaded nut arrangement within it. that's pulling this thing backwards and forwards on the threaded rod that's inside here. Not sure whether I can get a shot of that, but inside there's a threaded section that's turning, and also you may be able to see the keyway that's down inside there. So here's the keyway on the quill, and when it goes inside the housing, we can see there in the centre, right down there, that's the end of the screwed rod. We can see that turning now. As I'm turning the handle, you can see the screwed rod turning. That's what draws the quill in and out of this shaft arrangement here. Down in the bottom down here, below the screw, we can see that piece of shiny steel there. That goes inside this slot here. Once you've moved this quill, as they call it, to where you want it, such that you don't knock it inadvertently or anything of that nature, you can lock this in place by turning this down. The quill would be inside, and you would simply lock it down with that, and this then forms some kind of a clamping arrangement inside this ball that locks this in place so that it can't move like that. Even if you were to try and move the wheel, it would be locked. So the thing is, when it is locked, never try to move the wheel, because you're only doing damage to things. And then if we look to the left hand side, as I tighten this handle here to lock the quill in place, if we look to the left, there's the clamping part. We can see now it's actually lifted that section of steel up, and in lifting that section of steel up, that's what would cause the quill to be locked in place. So with the quill removed from the board of this tailstock, this locking mechanism can easily be just lifted out, and there's what it comprises of. So this is a sliding section, this is a screwed section that goes on there, and we can see that there's this rounded shape of the hole that we've got here, and basically these two pieces just clamp together like that to hold that in place. They simply clamp down onto it, and that's what's happening with that. So again, easily removable, but if ever you're going to carry this thing around, never carry it with this as a handle if that's not securely locked in place, because that could quite easily come out and you'd lose that to somewhere else. So there we are, just thought I'd show you that. But that's what's happening. You turn the handle and the two just close together like that, and that gets pincered in there. Okay, so that's what's going on inside this chamber. So the aim with this then is to simply clean up this front end, make sure this is in good health, which it surely is, as we can see. The only bit that really wants cleaning up is this front edge that was just protruding out of this base material whilst it got rusted up, and then I will clean down inside there as best I can with the anti-corrosion rust removing agent, and then I'll introduce into it the Morse taper 2 reamer. And I think that will be about it for this really then. My intention with this is, because these digits are fairly visible on this measuring scale here that measures how far this actually is pushed out on the thread. It's worked out on a scale here that X number of revolutions will give you X distance of travel on that. So because these are quite readable, I'm just going to clean this up as best as I can without trying to damage the digital readout that we can see there, the little digits. On this blue piece here, I need to introduce a little scratch mark such that I can tie the scratch mark up with these little scratch digits on this revolving wheel, because at the moment there is nothing there, so you don't know just how far you've moved this. You've nothing to relate these digits to. So I'm going to put a scratch mark on there so that I can always refer back to that scratch mark with a particular digit, and I'll know where I was before. So that's it with that. You've seen me cleaning things up before, so I won't bore you with that, but that's what I intend to do with this. Maybe just use a bit of wire wool on here and such like, just to get rid of this loose pitting that's on here, and then hopefully when this thing's back in service with oils on it, etc, etc, and being used, the rust build-up won't come back. Hopefully that's the plan. So let's see how we go on. So I won't bore you with all that, but that's what I'm going to do, and it's pretty much the same as we've already seen with the other things. I just thought I would show you this, and then we know how it works for those people who don't. If I wanted to take this out of here, there's a little grub screw down a slot there, and I would undo that grub screw, and then the whole of this section would come out with the screwed rod that's down there attached to it, and it's actually revolving in a bearing inside here. And if we can see these little bits there, they're spring loaded ball bearings again for using your oil can on, such that you can put your oil can on, force the ball bearing in, squeeze the oil down into the now open void that's below the ball bearing, and then when you bring your oil can away again, the ball bearing seals up the hole so no foreign matter and objects and rubbish get down inside there. But that's how it works. So I think I've just about got this tailstock now as clean as I can expect, or as I'd hoped to actually get it for my purposes at least. The solution that I've been using, the wrist dissolver, has really worked quite well on these components. It's still showing some signs of rust, but I may just try and do that again a little bit later. But at the moment I'm going to put this thing back together now. I've introduced onto here a little scratch mark that I was talking about previously, so that when this dial here is in a particular place, I can always return that dial to that particular place and know I'm in the same spot. So that's what I've done with that. Just put a little scratch on there. Yes, it's brought the paint off, but then it always would do. So we'll remove the quill, and what I'm doing with these is I'm putting them back together. Just one quick last clean off with one of these cloths. Just remove anything that might still be on it like that. And then a wipe off with a disposable cloth. So that component's now ready for going in. When I'm putting the components together, I'm using this Miller's lathe oil 7AW as an assembly oil. So that's the quill stop. I've just given that a wipe off. So in the bar there, I'm going to put some oil. Spread the oil around. And each of the components gets a liberal coating of oil. Putting some oil down inside here onto the threaded rod we were looking at earlier. And again, a liberal coating inside, make sure it's all over. Just trying to make sure that the keyway is in the correct place and this locking mechanism isn't fouling the entrance for the quill. More lubricant onto the threaded section for the quill, onto the keyway of the quill, and then outside the quill. Whilst I've got this off, I've cleaned down inside the quill. But whilst I can get at it easily, I'm going to put some in there because I'll be putting the reamer in it very shortly. So hopefully now this in. Might be easier to drop that section in first. Make sure that is aligned. Not sure if you can see that, but we can see that this shell, this arrangement here, is now in line with this quill shaft. So we know it's the keyway that's actually stopping it going in at the moment. So I'm just leveling up the keyway again. Now I can see the keyway down this hole. So let's try again. Eventually. So now it's stuck on the end of this threaded rod. So there we are, that's working now. That's as far as I want to take that in just now. So I'm not sure if you can see that now, but this shaft is now encapsulated under the bottom side of this arrangement here. So now we'll put the top side in. Simply drop that down into there, and there we are. So that's that. So now I've got this shaft here such that I can hold it in place without doing anything with it. I'll now put the reamer inside here, give it a couple of turns, and that will be sufficient, because I've used the rust dissolver previously inside this shaft in case there was any surface rust in there. and if there's anything left at all, I'm now going to remove it with the Morse taper tool reamer. So here's the Morse taper tool reamer, and I've now fitted it to the handle that I purchased previously with the smaller square in it. So I've opened the square out, and that's now a nice tight fit on the reamer. So we've got some oil in there already, so I've just put some in, and now we'll just lubricate up the reamer itself. And the idea behind the reamer is you're not supposed to reverse a reamer. You always keep the reamer turning in the direction of the cutting blades. But it should only take a couple of twists, and that should be sufficient. I know that the length of this reamer isn't too long for the depth of the hole inside this bore, because I've checked that. So pop that inside there. Just give it a couple of turns. I'm not really trying to take any steel away from there. I'm just trying to remove any rust that might be lingering in there, but I don't think there is anything. So I think I'm quite happy with that. So I'll just pop a cloth down inside there, bringing out some surface. So there we are, that's cleaning that out. And of course, each time you put the centre into the end of the quill, you'll just give it a quick wipe out, perhaps with just your finger, just to make sure there's nothing in there prior to your centre being placed in. But I think for our purposes that's quite sufficient. So I'll just give this just an overall oiling to hopefully prevent any more rust setting in. Just give it a protection, but I really do think that the rust dissolver does a really good job, so I would recommend it. And there we are. Because we cleaned off the end of that nib there that had the rust on, you can take it right inside now. So that's brilliant. I'm really quite happy with that, the way it's turned out. The only bit I did use any emery cloth on was the extreme end of this. There was quite a bit of rust build up there, so I did actually knock that off with a bit of emery cloth. But the rest of it, it was just the rust dissolver and these Scotch Brite pad type things. And I think overall it's come up really well, so I'm happy with that. And that one's ready for going back on the lathe now, so we'll see that get put back on at some point, but for now I'm happy. So the only thing now to do is to press these ball bearings down with the oil can and pump some oil into the orifices below. And that will hopefully add further lubrication into this chamber, and this will be a maintenance thing going forward, to keep putting drops of oil inside these places. Okay, so there we are. I'm happy with that. As we say, we're not making a pristine job of this, we're just trying to save the lathe from going to the scrapman, see if we can make it work again. We're not trying to make a silk purse out of a sow's ear, that was never going to happen. But there we go, I'm happy with that. Thanks for watching, bye for now.